Hi, everybody. I'm Cindy Langston. I'm the city's solid waste manager. And here to the right of me is Sean Orzelak. He's the superintendent in charge of all the operations at our solid waste facility. And today, Beth was gracious enough to allow us to come and talk to you all about some rate changes that City Council approved last year that are meant to be financial incentives for helping mostly with wind-blown litter and construction sites, trying to give financial incentives for segregating waste. So that's what I'm here today to talk about. So these rate changes that I talked about are meant to be incentives for handling basically construction material. Just recently, the city is approved by DEQ to use an unlined construction and demolition landfill. So because it's unlined, and we've had problems with our previous unlined area that it is impacting groundwater, we want to make sure that the only things that go in there are inert materials that aren't going to leach and go to the groundwater. So we have to be very, very particular about what goes in to the unlined cell. You know, some of the typical things that might go into an unlined cell: concrete, if you don't want to separate it and give it to one of the concrete people here, or if it has a lot of rebar and they don't want to take the time to separate it, this is another option that you can use just for concrete, and the tipping fee is a lot less. It's $26 per ton. Where if you go into the lines facility, it's $46 a ton. And if you mix it with a bunch of stuff that doesn't go in the unlined cell, then it jumps up to $96 a ton. So if you have a construction site, it's important to save money, to pull out those things that can go in the unlined cell because it'll cost a lot less money. So there is in your package, and Beth said it's in the left side. There's a handout about what can go in the unlined cell and what can't go in the unlined cell. One of the things on there that you'll see that we're still working with on determining if we want to limit quantities that's allowable is sheetrock. There's a lot of buildings that come down will have sheetrock in it, and sheetrock has gypsum in it, which can leach, and it's a bicarbonate problem. So right now it's on you can't put it in there, but we might allow some small quantities in the future. So I got a lot of questions about that before from people. So if you deal a lot with sheetrock and are concerned about that, if you'll call Sean or I, we can certainly talk to you about that because we're interested in that. So that's the one material that we've had the most questions about, trying to separate it. You can separate it by itself, and we can actually use it in a compost yard. So there's some options there too that would make it lower cost for gypsum. And the other things on here that are free, the recyclable materials, this isn't new. We can still, we get asked this mostly on new construction that's LEED certified. They'll say, hey, you know, to become greener, we want to divert all of our cardboard, all of our metals, everything that we possibly can. So the city of Casper can set up different containers, and you can pay for it at a construction site. So you're diverting all those materials, and all you're paying for is the collection, because there are no fees for disposal. So it's cheaper than hiring somebody who picks up garbage, because they're going to charge you what the landfill charges on top of the collection fees. So that's available, and you know, our competitors don't offer that right now, so we're really the only one that will do that on a construction site, with the exception of metals. Metals you can hire directly from the recycler here locally in Mills, Wyoming Iron and Steel, and they'll set you up a container for metals. And if you do that, they're making money, so make sure you negotiate how much money you get back if you're giving large quantities to them, because it is valuable. So we discussed, and Jason actually told me this morning that you discussed wind-blown materials in construction sites. One of the other reasons, in addition to keeping the nasties out of the unlined cell, is wind-blown materials at construction sites can be a problem. And if you're already segregating, you're putting your concrete in one place, your metals in another, and your building supplies in another, some of those materials you're not gonna have problems with litter. But if you're mixing it all into one, you're gonna have a problem with it blowing out or illegal dumping. One of our competitors, DK Hauling, actually offers in their big construction roll-off containers a lid. There's a copy of that picture of a lid in your materials, and they just had a local welder fabricate it, but that's something the city's going to be able to offer to construction people too. If you want to try to prevent litter, or if you're trying to prevent people using your container who shouldn't, you can ask for this kind of top. And stormwater came up. Jessica actually asked me about this, and the picture in there, this one is a fabric, so stormwater can actually get into the container. So if you want a top where stormwater can't get into it, Sean was just explaining to me this morning that we can fabricate to put like a fiberglass plastic thing over the top. So we can also do that if you're interested in not having stormwater enter your container. So those are kind of new services that we're going to provide to help construction managers with the litter and illegal dumping at sites. So if you want to skip, let's go to some of the examples. I put into your packages a couple of examples of how you can save money with actually segregating waste on site. This one is like an apartment demolition. It's going to come down, you win the contract or you're contracting it out, you have to take down a big complex. And I actually got these off the internet from the National Solid Waste Association. So these were done, but I checked them and made them relate to our rates. So this tonnage is based on an average sized apartment complex in a metropolitan area. So it may be a little bit larger than the ones that would be here. But out of an apartment complex, you have 1,900 tons of concrete, 600 tons of asphalt, some brick and block, wood framing, and other non-C&D type waste, equals 500 tons. So if you calculate all this total at the $26 per ton, you're gonna get 107, and the 500 tons would be $45 a ton. So that's if you segregate it. Your total cost is gonna be $130,000. If you don't segregate any of this and you mix it all together on one construction container, then it's gonna be at that $96 a ton, and it's gonna cost a whole lot more, $443,000. So if you have a big demolition project, the financial incentives are pretty great to actually segregate this, so you don't get that $96 a ton fee. If you go to the next one, a home demolition. So this is a real small size demolition. You can actually save money too. It's not on the same scale, but you have so much concrete, brick, wood framing, and stuff that can't go in that C&D cell. And if you do that, total cost, if you segregate everything, $4,800, and if you don't, $9,600 to $16,000. So you're saving $11,000, $12,000. So for a homeowner, that's definitely worth it. You know, if it's a realtor or a developer, they may not care about $11,000 at their bottom line. And that's important to note. This is not a mandatory program at all. You can mix your wastes all you want. You just pay a higher fee at our landfill. So it's important to note that the City Council did not want to mandate anybody on how they manage their waste, just give them financial incentives for how you manage it. You know, one of the biggest issues that comes up with general contractors is how do we get our workers to actually comply with separating waste? And everything that I've read and everyone I've talked to is the most successful way to do that is to actually designate one person to be the garbage cop, that's what I like to call them, to make sure that everything's going in the right container and being handled appropriately. at a construction site. So the question I'll get from general contractors is, well, do we have to, if we have to hire another person, you know, that may be $10,000 or $50,000 depending on the job. So that financial incentive has to be worth paying an individual to actually police it. So you need to run those numbers to see if it's worth it on here. So that's our biggest advice is to really designate somebody as the cop. And some of the other things I mentioned on here is like bonuses to employees if they comply, you know, and you say you're saving that $300,000 on a project, that you designate, you know, 50,000 of that to go back to employees who are compliant. Doing those kind of incentives to get people to be compliant at the site has been done in the larger cities. And for the YDOT people, requiring, you know, some of these things to happen in your general contract so you get those lower prices and price breaks. We talk about that too. That's pretty common in other states to do that. We threw in some recycling ideas too. You know, we are somewhat limited here, but in Casper about recycling everything, but we actually do a really good job in Wyoming, in particular in Casper with the brick and block. You know, we have local people that actually will take that and clean it and sell it back. The clean concrete, I know Knife River takes it, the McMurray people take it. They do have some requirements, you know, for it, but they do a really good job on that. Asphalt, I know the city does a great job. All of their rotomill and asphalt, they reuse. A lot of it's reused at the landfill, and we put them at snow sites, that kind of thing. So asphalt definitely is recycled here. I don't think we ever put asphalt hardly in the landfill. So you should never see that going in the landfill. If you're paying to have that disposed of, that's a cost that you can get rid of. Metals, that's the other thing we're really good about. All over the state, there's metal recyclers. Metals have value, so that should never go to the landfill and be paying charges for. So that's the materials in there. And if anybody's got any questions about these new rates or how we're going to implement them, and this is the time to ask me and Sean. We do have that cell open right now, and we do have a few customers. We do ask that you call us ahead if you have a project where you want to use that cell. Because the one thing about that cell is because we're so specific about what goes in there, you have to have a city employee escort you into the cell, and we actually watch the unloading. Because if there's anything in there that's not supposed to go in there, then it's got to be trucked back over to the lined area, and then you're charged the higher fee. So we do it by talking to us ahead and scheduling what kind of trucking schedule you're going to have. I think we have a big contract right now with tires coming in, and so they've got a lot coming in as we figure out when they're going to be, if they're mornings, afternoons, or what days they're hauling. So we're in there. So that's the one thing we ask you, if you want these price breaks, to give us a call ahead so we can work with you on your scheduling. Does anybody have any questions? Wow, you're a quiet group.
Are you going to fix the baler, or what's the deal with that?
That's a good question, and I get asked that a lot. Actually, the balers are very close to operational. We finally got the manufacturer in. Instead of going to a lawsuit, we got an agreement for them to come in. They got bought by another company, the baler manufacturers, and so they're coming in, and they've been here since the end of October, and they're working through all of the mechanical, hydraulic, and programming issues that this baler has had. This baler was a brand new model that had really never been field tested, and so it's never worked properly, but they're very close to having it work properly. So my best guess is it's going to be about 60 days before we open it up to the public, because they're required to make it run for 30 days with no major problems, and I anticipate that'll take about 60 days. So we're talking about in a couple months, we'll have it up and running. So this spring, hopefully, we'll be baling, because that's a good point. Right now, It's like we don't have the baling option, and so everything's going to that lined cell. And the litter problem is obviously a problem with that, so. Any other questions? Yeah.
Did you say earlier that you were taking tires now?
We are taking tires now, because we're taking it in that unlined cell. Our balers still aren't running, but we're taking them and not baling them and putting them on the unlined cell because that just opened up recently, so yes.
So what would that be a ton then? Is that 26?
You know, it is unless you have huge quantities of it, and then I think we negotiated a price. So we have some ability, if you have large quantities, to negotiate other prices. But yeah, it'd be $26 a ton.
That's
We
just
usually
tires,
haul
no
probably
rims.
3 end-up loads at a time.
What's that?
I said we usually haul 3 end-up loads at a time from our pit.
Yeah. And so, and we can take the big mine tires and all kinds of tires in that unlined area. We can't allow the rims on them, and that's become an issue. But by law, we're not supposed to let the rims go in there. So, but yes, we're taking them, just give us a call ahead
Okay.
if you want that price break on tires. Any other questions? Great. Well, thank you, and again, give us a call anytime, and we can set up the cheaper price for y'all.
And spread the word, like if you're working on a construction project, it's being a, you know, the county or even you being, you know, you deal with construction all the time, or why not, let them know that there's definitely that incentive to switch. And it's a huge sell. And we'll expand it as needed, moving forward. Just only build so much at a time to meet scale of economy, but.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, everybody.